All right, thank you so much. Yep, so we'll call in the Education Planning February 7th committee meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is review the December 6th minutes. Any questions, comments, concerns, additions to the minutes? Next is the enrollment report update by Dr. Avedis.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Spring enrollment. In your packet was the January 19th weekly enrollment comparison. To update you as of this past Friday, so February 2nd at the Groundhog's Day. Overall enrollment is at 4.3% head count. And FTE is at 6.5%. The Gemini registrations have just gotten underway. So the deadline for Gemini registrations is March 6th. So they have about a month. Based on last year's deadline, which was March 3rd, about 10% of their total registrations came in after that deadline. So going to continue probably until the end of March. So just to give you an idea of fall 24 numbers. So applications as of today are at 1,635 apps for fall in comparison to 1,620, same period a year ago, 1,620. That's about a 1% increase. Intents to enroll are at 245. And in comparison to the same time period in fall 23, for fall 23 apps, it was 185. So it's about a 32% increase. So any questions?
I did have a question.
Yes.
The numbers are not jiving for me on this spring
Okay.
2023 to spring 2024.
Yes.
On the, there were negatives, but it looked like there should be positives. The Geneva Campus Center,
Yes.
it said 2023, it was 71, 2024 was 80, but yet the head count total growth is negative
So
3.7.
that's target growth.
Target growth.
So
So
that
can you explain
relates-
target growth?
Sure, I can. So target growth is based on an annual basis, there is a subcommittee of the Strategic Enrollment Planning Steering Committee that meets to set targets, which are stretch goals for enrollment in various categories. And the campus centers are one of the categories. So we receive projections from APCI, which is, the projections are the mathematical formula. They're like a weighted formula based on past official enrollments by semester. And then we look at those projections and have a conversation for each category as to whether, is that realistic? Are we expecting enrollment to grow beyond that projection or decrease based on internal and external factors, threats and opportunities?
Yeah.
So the target is the target that's set by that subcommittee. So that subcommittee for the Geneva Center aim time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you
You're
for the
welcome.
explanation. I appreciate it.
Question.
Yep.
George?
Are you, I don't know if you can tell or not, is there any uptick in age?
So the fall enrollment report that you all received showed that we are making inroads in terms of average age of students at this college. And you will also know during my STEM plan presentation that a significant portion of that 3-year STEM plan is focused on adult student enrollment.
So how do we, I'm sure this is getting communicated across because they're going to require some maybe different supports and so forth for success. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's also included in the STEM plan in terms of assessing our current services and where there are additional needs that need to be met to better serve adult students.
Cool. Part of the national trend. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions regarding the enrollment? Yes.
I do, yes. Dr. Urbaitis, at what point do you understand or get a confirmation from an enrollment standpoint of whether the student's in person or remote virtual? And does that change throughout the semester?
That is based on their registration because each course section is a specific modality.
Okay,
So if they're registering for English 101, could be online, could be iFlex, could be in person.
Okay.
So, and that is specific to each course section.
Just to add to that variable that we look at in the fall enrollment report, so we're trying to that. And then when we get our official data back from SUNY, which means it's been certified, by assuming after we submitted it, then we'll look at the spring semester sort of specifically. We can tell from registration that, the trend towards enrollment and online form, courses that happen online and as increase the spring semester, but we won't have official data on that until everything closes for the semester.
and similar to George's comment in terms of, I would guess there's services that are needed for those students who are here versus those that might reach us in some remote or virtual way. And the subsequent cause and effect of that.
Goes into the planning. When we see shifts like this, as well as planning for shifts in STEM plan, we also want to look semester to semester with this. As well, and that does go with our planning processes and, various different components of the college.
Thanks. Thank you both. Yeah.
And one final question, sorry. Immigrant students, undocumented, there's been an uptick in the state. Thank you to the governor of Texas. Are you seeing any impact on that?
I would have to get back to you on that. I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
I will just anecdotally say that folks locally in Call to Care have now relocated, I believe, 9 families, could be more. And in the recent report referenced individuals who are taking classes through FLCC. Couldn't tell you a number, but it was referenced in their just recent report, the early after the new year.
Thank you.
Interesting.
On that note, I do have another question, I'm sorry. Okay. So would these students then, would they need to have a high school diploma from here, or is a high school diploma from any other country suffice?
So it would depend. So that would go through admissions and they would, we certainly have international students attending the college, provide their credentials.
Yeah.
So it would be a very similar process. Yeah, and if they did not have high school diploma, similar to our students who do not complete high school or have an IEP, there's other avenues for them to pursue in terms of matriculation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Yep.
So I'm curious, with the micro credentials, are you filling up those classes with enrollment or out of curiosity?
I don't know the answer to that in terms of, I would have to get back to you.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, next we have the student success link to financial aid and academic standings, Jagel Berner and Sarah Upton.
We can.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jadale Berner, and I am the Director of Financial Aid here at FLCC. I'm relatively new to the college. I've been here for about 4 months, and Sarah asked me to accompany her today to present on the financial aid topics related to this part of the presentation. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Sarah Wicken, Associate Vice President of Student Affairs. Thank you again for having us. Today, we're going to talk through academic and financial aid standings as they related to fall 23. So this slide, I just want to start and remind folks kind of what we do with academic standings, a refresher, if you will. We highlight that at the end of every fall and spring term on matriculated students, we run academic standings, and we look at attempted credits and a minimum GPA, and that is graduated so that a student can come on for the first term or so and get a little college under their belt, so it's not an immediate 2.0. But as you can see there, we have that attempts completes minimum GPA, and as students go through each term, they're then assessed. Students go to academic probation if they fall below that, or they are then dismissed if they fall below that again, or they return back to good standing, which is always our hope.
So in contrast, I want to talk a little bit about the financial aid satisfactory academic progress, particularly as it relates to federal student aid. And so while from an academic perspective, there is a sliding or a graduated scale, our hands are rather tied when it comes to federal financial aid eligibility, because we have to meet the standards dictated by the Department of Education. So that includes that a student must have a minimum cumulative GPA of a 2.0. They need to complete 67% of the coursework that they attempt. And then they need to be reasonably progressing towards the completion of their degree. And the Department of Education measures that by the student completing their program of study within 150% of the published length. Now, from a financial aid standpoint, like academic standing, we review the students at the end of each term that they're enrolled, and we assign a SAP status to that student. So they're either in good academic standing. If they haven't met any of the tenets that we're looking at in our SAP policy, we would then assign them a one-time financial aid warning. And at that point, we do outreach to the student, letting them know that they have not met the satisfactory academic progress standings. And we also recommend that they talk to their professional academic advisor to help make sure that they can get back to track. For students who don't rehab their SAP status by the end of that warning period, then they move to a financial aid suspension. And on financial aid suspension, they're not eligible for financial aid from the federal government. Now, with that being said, students that have extenuating circumstances are able to appeal that SAP status. So if there's death in the family, illness, or any sort of extenuating circumstance, they can file an appeal with the financial aid office. And if the appeal is approved, that student is then put on a probationary status and assigned an academic plan that they work out with their academic advisor to ensure continued success in their program.
So those are the kind of the basic tenets. Looking at some of the data from the fall 23 cohort, specifically around academics, I just want to call your attention that we had a total of 507 students placed on academic probation, 96 who continued on in probation, meaning that they were making some progress, but had not yet reached good standing. And that's done by hand with a small cohort of professionals, myself, Cassie Kent, and sometimes we bring in other faculty and such to help us understand a student's trajectory. And then we dismissed 67 students. Those 67 students are after the appeals process. So there were students that were dismissed, appealed, and they were allowed to return. They're part of the continuing probation cohort. Looking at our totals on, again, academic probation only, we're pretty on track with our 5-year targets. But there are a couple of trend data points that are glimmers of hope. And the first is the continuing academic probation. We had 3% versus kind of that 2.6%. Again, not huge, but enough of a glimmer. And also, we dismissed fewer students. Again, always positive when you don't have to send a student away for a period of time. So overall, pretty consistent 5-year trend data, but again, some of our initiatives are just really starting, so hopefully we will see more trend in the future coming down and students staying off this chart.
Now, speaking to financial aid satisfactory academic progress, this year we had this semester, excuse me, after the fall, we had 560 new students that were placed on financial aid warning. So these students have been notified that they didn't meet the standards, and again, encouraged to meet with their academic advisor. We had 302 students who were on suspension after the fall semester. But of this population of students, we had 160 students who had been previously on suspension, but enrolled without the benefit of federal financial aid, yet still remain on suspension because they have not improved their academics enough to be off of financial aid probation. And then we had, as of the date that this slide was made, we had 42 students who were on financial aid probation, but that number has since increased. We currently have 52 students who are on financial aid probation. And this means that those students have had extenuating circumstances. They have filed a financial aid appeal, and we have since granted that appeal, and they are working with their academic advisor on an academic plan to ensure that they meet the satisfactory academic standard by the time they graduate from their program.
Looking at who came back, there's a positive trend here that more than half of the students from the fall were registered before they left that ended up in academic probation. So they kind of might know that they're not gonna do so well, but they still wanna come back. And I think that speaks to our students understanding that there's another opportunity to continue to be enrolled. So from the students that were impacted from the fall, again, there are students that will come back in other terms and carry with them some of those probation status or warning status, but we're only looking at the fall group. We have over 500 students enrolled that have this financial aid or academic probation status. That's a decent size, but I do think that our systems are being built and we're communicating with them better to try and ensure that they understand how to get out of that hole. As you can see, most students are impacted by financial aid. The vast majority are financial aid, and then 2/3 are academic as well. But there is a good number of students who are in good academic standing, but are in financial aid, most likely PACE problems or potentially time problems. And just a few who are in good financial aid standing, but who seem to have some academic issues. So we are working with these populations, and I then subdivided it so you can kind of get a glimpse of where they might fall as cohorts. So very just interesting data. Again, I kind of shared that students were registered before they even left, so they didn't even know what happened to them, but they were planning on coming back and they came back. Our communication is getting stronger. Janelle and I know there are some places that we could strengthen that relationship better. It's difficult when you get complicated communications on systems you're not familiar with and you get them from multiple places, right? So we need to streamline that. And we're doing more and more analysis with the help of ACPI to really understand cohorts and impact, how are we impacting students earlier and more successfully to keep them on the path and out of probation and out of financial aid warning. And then we wanted to share that it's not all doom and gloom. We save students too. And we wanted to talk a little bit about our perseverance case. This is a student that is a great story. They live in the suites, 4th term culinary student, no transportation, no job outside of the college, struggled in the first year with some conduct, with some legal issues, has been moving progressively with their GPA back up, taking classes, earning that one at a time. And we were able to get them emergency support services. We were able to get them more money to come back, even though they lost their TAP. And they may or may not be getting all the aid they could be. We have wrapped around them and they are here and they are being successful. And I just checked my starfish flags and they got all, good comments back from the first progress survey. And it's that interconnectedness between the college, the association, the foundation that's streamlining our systems to be more supportive of our students. So more success students like this can come and be graduating in May across that stage.
And we're actively looking at things within the financial aid office to see how we can better align with other offices on campus. In the past few weeks, we've had meetings with both Sarah and with Mohegan to see how financial aid can better funnel information to the academic advisors so they can provide better support to the students to ensure that they're not failing staff, either from an academic standing or from a financial aid standing. And then we're looking at new initiatives that we can implement to help identify students before they get to a point where they're failing either academically or financially, so that we can be proactive in keeping them enrolled here at the college rather than letting them get to a point where they may be a little too far for us to help and wrap around like we did with at least one of these students. Questions?
You're hitting my buttons there with predictive, which I'm always interested in. And, you know, like, for instance, the first gen students kind of pop out. Are we finding anything through the data and especially working together that's helping us with first gen students to avoid them getting into the situation?
I don't know if we've drilled down quite that far yet. Jadale just started with us a few months ago. But it's definitely on our mind and in working in ACPI and thinking about TRIO applications or Title III applications. We've been talking through specialized cohorts like first gen or how eligible those
Right.
pieces. So we certainly have been thinking about it. I'm just not sure we've done.
That's perfectly,
Yeah.
that's a perfectly good answer.
Deborah would like to add.
I would just add that I think first gens are really important construct to think about. And historically, though, it does tend to, the financial aspect is particularly important with first gen. One of the things that we have learned more broadly from our data is that's not the first place we have problems academically. It doesn't mean that first gen isn't important, but some of our other areas are sort of more critically important when we're thinking about predictive, or it's first gen as intersected with other variables. But from a college going perspective and financial knowledge background, there's a lot of strong research that supports that first gen is predictive in that way. And I think now that we have Jadale working on this project, as Sarah just mentioned, we'll be able to sort of dig into that piece of it a little bit more. But overall, our first gen students, not across the board, not perfectly, not everything, it's not the first variable that I point to. It's one of them. And there are others that I would say, okay, limited resources, let's look at this one first.
Thank you. And a quick separate question, just so great to have you here, Dale, with this kind of information. I know there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff that has to go through with the federal funds. What types of things could risk those funds? What are the
So
areas of concern?
across the board, most institutions have been making a concerted effort to streamline their financial aid process. One of the biggest, obviously, barriers to students receiving financial aid is the complexity of the FAFSA, which has been, I'm sure as you're aware, addressed by the Department of Education, at least in theory. It is a very well-intentioned initiative to redesign the FAFSA. We have walked through it at this point with many, many students, some very successfully, others not quite as successfully. The site is still having continual technical issues. And the back end, more importantly, the systems required to process the FAFSA and get it to us are not fully developed yet. So not only are there delays and issues on the front end of the process, which impact our students and obviously their initial experience with the whole idea of coming to college, but then also on the back end, it leads to some significant delays for us because we can't necessarily be as proactive as we had in the past. So generally, the FAFSA is available in October. Most schools are able to start getting financial aid award letters out December, January timeframe, because historically, the need analysis, the calculations on the back end, they haven't changed very significantly. So it's just a matter of rolling your system over, installing a couple patches, and then doing what you've always done. This year, it's a complete redesign. And so there is some concern that, you know, as an impediment to enrollment, because of these FAFSA delays, we won't be able to get financial aid award letters out to students as quickly. And it's something that we're addressing as an enrollment management team. We've had a number of different meetings with different constituents so that across the campus, we're all aware of what sort of trickle down effect this could have. But then from a student perspective, you know, once they do have their financial aid, there are very few things that would jeopardize that aid eligibility, save for satisfactory academic performance. And that's generally the one and only reason that our students would be losing their eligibility. And that's again why we're working together with, you know, with academic advising and with Sarah to make sure that we are being as proactive as we can with those students to make sure that, you know, the one small hoop that they have to jump over once they're here is a relatively easy one for them to get over.
Put my mind at ease. Thank you.
First of all, thank you both for your presentation. That was very enlightening. Underneath the arc of academic standing and financial aid, when those awards financially, and yet there's a student who's academically dismissed, is there a period of time when some of those funds might need to be collected or repaid or repatriated in some way? And what is our process, and are we successful or not?
So when it comes to academic dismissal, fortunately, that typically happens at the end of the semester. And so we don't generally have to recoup any financial aid that has already been awarded or dispersed to students because they've at least finished that period for which the aid was awarded.
Okay.
That being said, if a student has loans, for example, if they take a year off, as sometimes we recommend for students with academic standing issues, those loans that they would borrow through the direct loan program have a 6 month grace period. So there is the possibility that any loans the student has borrowed could go back into repayment after that 6 months. Some students may have prior loans if they've been at other institutions. And so each loan has 1 6 month grace period. And so if I borrowed a loan from another institution and already used that grace period, the moment I cease to be enrolled here, that loan goes back into repayment. Now, again, not all doom and gloom. The federal student loan programs are exceptionally flexible in as much as you can defer or forbear your loan payments. So all a student would need to do is pick up the phone and contact their loan servicer and let them know, I'm taking a break from school. Can I have a forbearance on my loan? And that's a very easy process. And that's part of the initiatives that we're looking at as well. In our outreach to students for their exit counseling is making it much more transparent for them what resources are available if they're struggling once they leave FLCC.
Thank you. Very thorough.
Any other questions or comments?
Good partnership with the guys.
Just one very brief one, talking about the FAFSA in the governor's budget. She is requesting that the FAFSA form being filled out be a requirement for graduation, which would help us in terms of that process, which has been found to be very successful in Texas and Louisiana and some other states who have done that. They can opt out if they wish, but now you have an earlier starting point and help them get their FAFSAs filled out.
At high school graduation,
Yep.
condition of getting their diploma.
Graduation.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good
we
night.
have a couple of administrative appointments. Dr. Ortiz?
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is my pleasure to bring before you a resolution in support of the administrative appointment of Marilyn Brazenda, who is our coordinator of the Math Center in the Department of Academic Success and Access Programs. Marilyn is with us this evening. So I know that you have my recommendation letter in your packet, but I would just like to highlight a couple of points. Firstly, Marilyn is a creative problem solver, dedicated educator, and transformational leader. Based on her emotional intelligence, her intellectual curiosity, professional development trajectory for herself and those on her team, she has been recognized by her peers, by her colleagues, for her innovation, her authentic care, her flexibility and adaptability, and stellar communication skills. I also wanted to highlight a couple of comments from her supervisor, Rick Van Dyke. He wanted to mention that during COVID, that Ms. Brazenda was able to guide the center through many unusual, that was the word, unusual challenges and adjustments. But during that time, moving to different modalities, that she demonstrated remarkable resilience, calm, and an innovative spirit to ensure the highest quality services for students, which those efforts translated into a 30% increase in center usage from academic year 21-22 to 22-23, and a 50% increase from fall 22 to fall 20. So for all of those reasons, Finger Lakes Community College and many math students have benefited from Ms. Brazenda's commitment to academic excellence and willingness to problem solve collaboratively. She is a genuine asset to the college and will undoubtedly continue to serve our students with distinction. So I enthusiastically recommend Marilyn Brazenda for permanent appointment. I also have the privilege of bringing forward a resolution for administrative appointment for Shannon Dermody. Shannon was not able to be with us this evening, but she is a technical specialist in the Environmental Conservation and Horticulture Department, which is led by Chairperson Professor Young Faust. Shannon was highlighted by her peers, her colleagues, and her supervisor for fostering a true culture of belonging within her department and with her students. Those were common threads throughout the feedback, that she's an active listener, that she authentically cares, that she is inclusive, and make sure that she is going the extra mile in everything that she does to help everyone be successful. They also pointed to her ability to creatively approach problems, include others, and serving as a exemplary ambassador for the college. And with that, I would just close by saying that when we're working with our students in her role, that ability to make folks feel like they belong, that they're heard, that they're welcomed, is a tremendous asset to everyone who works with her and our students. So with that, I also recommend highly administrative appointment for Shannon German.
Next, we have a professional service position. And thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Human Resources has been working fervently with our information technology Chief Information Officer, Ed Kelty, and the rest of the HR staff to ensure that IT is staffed appropriately with today's technology and with the needs of the organization and the department. So you will have this evening for your consideration, the network telecommunications specialist. The previous position description was dated 2009, so we all know. If you went to pick up our phone in 2009, it probably wouldn't be working, right? So technology has changed considerably in those 15 years. Therefore, we've updated that position description to acknowledge those current needs and regarding information technology. This position will assist in supporting IT resources, the operations of college-wide networks, virtual and physical infrastructure, and the effective delivery of voice, video, and data services. The position will remain in the professional association and will remain a pay group D. I'll take any questions on that one. Okay. The next is the Business Systems Analyst Project Coordinator position. This position replaces the Business Systems Analyst from 2008. The IT department requires project coordination because they do have a multitude of projects that are ongoing at the same time. Those projects could be changes, updates in systems, or just routine or, significant changes. This position is responsible for the redesign of business processes to improve the productivity and enable an effective incorporation of technology. This position is also in the professional association, and the pay group has actually reduced slightly from a B to a C. Any questions on the Business Systems Analyst Project Coordinator? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is Dr. Arias with the FLCC Strategic Enrollment Management Plan.
Hello again. Just wanted to provide an update on our new 3-year strategic enrollment management plan. And we'll go to the next one, sure.
It's not connected.
So a little bit of background. This is not our first 3-year SEM plan. We did a SEM plan, we launched our first 3-year SEM plan in 2018. And these were the goals affiliated with that SEM plan. You'll note in comparison to the new plan, there were no measures or metrics associated with the first 3-year plan. This plan, the 2018 through 2022 plan, served us through COVID and served us well, frankly. There were 5 areas of focus in terms of goals: program development, credit bearing, and online learning. Program development relative to concurrent enrollment, expanding concurrent enrollment offerings and creating pathways. Program development non-credit, so scaling existing training opportunities for non-credit students and connections with employers. This is where the GRIP program was born. Marketing and recruitment and retention. Uh, so in the spring of 21, we received notification from SUNY that they had received a grant from the Lumina Foundation that was specifically focused on community colleges within the SUNY system to develop community college strategic enrollment management plans. And they provided funding. Lumina Foundation provided funding for that. So $900,000 was provided for support of SEM plans. A large portion of that funding went to ACRO. And ACRO is a professional organization that is really the professional organization for enrollment management folks. And ACRO was intimately involved in working with us. We had an ACRO coach, Dr. Laura Wonkel, who was fabulous to work with. So we each received $10,000 as a kickoff for use in fiscal year 23. We invested those funds in a digital ad, in a digital ad campaign targeting adult learners. And then an additional $20,000 was available in competitive grant awards in March 23. So of the 30 community colleges, 29 submitted a full or partial SEM plan. 19 submitted a full plan, and we were one of the 19. In June of 23, myself, Brian McCabe, and Cassie Kent presented in Denver at a national conference, ACRO SUNY conference, on our plan. And the Lumina Foundation also submitted very similar approach within other states, California, Minnesota, and one other state I'm forgetting. So this was a broad effort on the Lumina Foundation's part. Recently, we received notification that there is now phase 2 funding available from the Lumina Foundation to support our current SEM plan. And there were 2 options available. Option 1 is up to $50,000 for those institutions that submitted a full plan, and there will be 5 awards. And option 2 is a funding of $5,000 or $10,000 to support the next phase of SEM plan implementation. We recently submitted our proposal for option 1. We are seeking approximately $30,000 in funding to advance our SEM plan, predominantly focused on adult students and developing an employer partnership model that would focus on engaging employers who have tuition assistance programs in our service area to be their first choice of their first choice college for non-credit and credit courses, but also to engage new employers who would consider creating tuition assistance programs for their workers.
So just a question
Sure.
on that last point. In this planning process or the plan itself, have you identified regional, local employers that you might be reaching out to?
Absolutely. I am in the process of that and have a list thus far, and that list will be vetted to see who is missing. So the SEM planning structure is, so I think you all know we have a strategic enrollment planning steering committee. That committee has been in existence now for several years. That committee has oversight of the SEM plan, not just development and implementation, but tracking of it as well. We have a quarterly review process in place to look at the plan. And we will adjust our goals and really adjust strategy and tactics based on those quarterly reviews to ensure that we're staying on track. We have 4 specific goals and the actual plan is in your packet. So hopefully you took some time to read through that. 2 goals focused on recruitment and 2 goals focused on the retention, focused traditional age students and adult students. This SEP, which is our nickname for the steering committee, meets bi-weekly for 45 minutes every month for 12 months. We go year long. SEP membership comprises representatives from across all college divisions and governance reps. Myself and Laura co-chair the SEP and develop the agenda in consultation with the steering committee. And I participate in the SUNY SEM community of practice sessions that are held generally on a monthly or 2-month basis, virtual meetings. Questions?
All right, any questions? Wonderful, thank you
You're welcome.
so much. I hate to do this, but I do have a question going back to the professional positions, Kim. I'm sorry. Is the pay positions, group D, is that more than a C?
So the higher the ladder, the lower the compensation.
Okay,
Yeah, so
so the network communications, that's a D. Oh, which is lower than the C, the other one. Okay, because I noticed that was a D and that required an associate's, but the analyst was a C that required a bachelor's. So they do correlate. Right, correctly. Okay,
And there are, education is one factor, but there are
Right.
a multitude of other factors.
yep. No, I just wanted to make sure that the correlations were correct. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay,
I've done the same thing to myself.
yep. Yes, Tom.
And I did have a quick follow-up question for Carol
Oh, sure.
regarding the SEM proposal that you submitted
Yes.
have they given you an idea of when they might make a decision about that?
Jennifer Miller at SUNY indicated to me on Monday, this past Monday, that she is beginning to review the proposals this week.
Great.
Those
Okay. So any other questions, comments, concerns before we adjourn? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So-
Anita and Jeff second, thank you. Did you get that?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned at 5:15, or excuse me, 18.
Okay, with the adjournment of education and planning, I'm going to give the floor to trustee Martin for the finance and facilities update.
Thank you, Chair Geis. Call the meeting the February 7th, 2024 Finance and Facilities Committee of the Board of Trustees of Finger Lakes Community College.
Yeah.
We have the December 6th, 2023 minutes. Again, our thanks, Penny, for capturing all those minutes. Any questions, comments, concerns, additions, omissions? Perfect again. All right, way to go. Budget update, finance report. Jason is here. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. Just wanted to go over the December results, in line with where we were last year, and for the budget as well for this year. You'll see that our non-resident, revenue line is, higher, than our budgeted number, but that's because right now we're including our, individuals or students that haven't filed a certificate of residency with us.
Okay.
That revenue amount is being included there, so that's why it's higher. But as these CRs do come in, as we process bills and the CRs come in from the counties, that number will start coming down and probably more in line with where our budget was. So We do anticipate our revenues to be slightly higher than budget just because of our increase in enrollment, this year. But as you look at that line may look a little unusual right now, but that's because of how our CR process works. So
So they'll fall into the other
they'll
category.
fall to the other category. They'll go actually up to other counties.
Okay.
We'll collect that revenue there, so.
Questions on the revenue side? I have the three, the state aid sponsor and sponsor specific, are those timing issues?
State aid, we just received our second quarter payment in the beginning of February, so you'll see that in the February results. The sponsor specific investment, that will typically come in February, once the county collects the tax revenue from our citizens, and then that will be the sponsor specific investment. And that'll be spread between February and March, we'll receive those payments.
Other revenue? Expenses?
Expenses were running in line with budget. Again, as I explained back in December, the supply and expense line a little bit higher than last year, and that's just the timing of when we recognized our concurrent enrollment scholarships. In the previous year, we didn't recognize that until later in the year. This year, we recognized it more upfront just as we improved our billing process. So
I see utilities are down significantly, like that.
utilities, I think, is the timing of when we receive our invoices and recognition. So,
Okay.
I know as we finished up year end, I think we came right in line with budget as their utility companies had invoiced us.
33% of the year and 31% expenses, that's
Yeah.
spot on.
Yeah.
Questions on the expenses?
I'll just touch base on year end too, 31. So, we are continuing to work with our auditors and finishing up, some of the audit work that was done. Just had a meeting with them this afternoon. We do anticipate having, them come and present in the April meeting, the financials. So, they have some things that they're buttoning up. We have some entries, that are still being processed right now, from the audit. So, but we do anticipate that to finish up here, in the next couple of weeks. So good results so far. So nothing that we've seen in the past. I'm not expecting a lot of auditor entries, or proposed entries. So just kind of the cleanup entries that we've had, so.
Are they still with us now physically? They're
They're
still.
not here physically, a
All
lot of it was remote done, this year, so.
Great. Questions on audit? What else could you offer? We get to resolution.
That's from a finance perspective, the CR process, the state did institute a new law for all counties to follow. And ensuring that the CR process is a lot smoother for our students. Some counties actually required a student to be there physically. So some of our further away counties for students that were attending had to go back to that county to get a CR notarized and bring that back here. So the state has issued a new law to allow electronic filing of those CRs. And also has increased the timeline of when a student can obtain that CR. So that will allow, when the registration occurs, they can also apply for their CR, and that will allow that CR to be more timely. Students kind of thinking about it versus, they had 90 days prior to classes starting and 30 days after classes started. So a lot smoother, hopefully, of a process for our students and CR is obtained.
Before we get to resolutions, any other questions for Jason on this topic? Anything else you want to offer? We have a couple resolutions with your name attached.
Yes, the first resolution is our grade contract for our adjuncts. So that is within so I don't know if it's in another pack, but it is something that we had presented previously. No changes from what had been presented. The county board of supervisors has signed off on that, has worked through the process. So it's just presenting that for approval of that grade contract.
Great. It will take that full meeting, the actual approval. Terrific. Keep going.
Authorize a contract renewal with EAD for strategic advisory services. So this was an agreement that we had entered into for 3 years prior. It's an advisory services that collects a lot of research for us to be able to make certain decisions. So what's happening in the industry, allowing a lot of thought material for us to consider as we look at programs, enrollment, things like that, that they can do a lot of good research for us. And they did provide some good thought articles that will allow us to kind of consider different options.
No questions from the trustees. Okay. Thank you, Jason. If you could hold right there, we'll give Dr. Nye an opportunity to talk to us about the next resolution with regard to Rammerman.
We have a resolution for executive development sessions with the Rommerman Group. This is similar to what we did in my first year at the college when I was new with the new team to help develop the team. And as you know, we have 3 new cabinet members and a 4th one with 1 year going to the 2nd year here. So I felt it was important to go back through some executive development training for the new members and the whole cabinet, and then also for actual group development sessions. And I think it's important to say this is a focus on the executives, and it's the actual proposals for just a little over 40,000. It says 50 just because sometimes you have incidentals. But I think that professional development is important for everyone. And I had mentioned during my presentation at opening days that working with Dr. Ortiz for some additional development with faculty, and also with Kim on a leader development for the staff that we didn't do one this year because we started to run out of folks for it. But we've got a lot of new people involved, and it would be an addition that what we've done in the past for the leader development, and would be an augment the Peaks program that we have going as well. So looking holistic across the spectrum, but it was time to do something with the executive group since we've gotten together for a little bit and had a little time to get together, and also give that development to them. That's it. Any questions?
Thanks for offering that. I think it's a good investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to commend you for continuing to work on professional development and including yourself in that. It's impressive.
Final questions? Ready? About a half a dozen informational items. Yes.
Some bid renewals for our janitorial services, Sheen, for our Victor and North campuses. So that one, and then we have our professional printing services, some of the items that we outsource to those screeners that we outsource that to. So mail courier services. So this was a quote acceptance. We changed our mail courier for the current year. Janitorial services for Geneva and viticulture. That again is utilizing Shine and Sheen services. Kathy's been very happy with that. We recently had a retirement there, so this is really just to provide temporary relief for those services no longer being there. So until we can get that fired. Renewal of our transcript ordering services. So this is pertinent that provides services for our students and will allow them to get their transcripts online. And then our budget transfer report. This is our return to Title IV calculations. So utilizing ProEd solutions to assist us with ensuring that our return to Title IV calculations are done accurately. This has been an area of concern in our audits over the past 2 years. Jadel has identified, the need for this, and for $15 a calculation, it makes sense to be able to do this. So, to verify that we're doing it accurately.
Anything else on the informational side? Final questions for Jason? Okay, I'd entertain a motion and a second. Thank you, Jason.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you.
Who was first?
George and Richard.
Right over here. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair, I give you back an hour.
Thank you very much.
Together, we give you back an hour.
It is 5:29. I would like to again make the suggestion that we move into the regular board meeting, at which time then we can move into executive session. And before we go into executive session, we can let all these people get on with their other lives. If that is all right, then we will start the regular meeting. All right, I'd like to call into session the February 7th Board of Trustees meeting for FLCC. The first item will be community public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak? Is there anyone that is online that would like to speak? All right, seeing no one moving, coming forward, I'm going to go to the resolutions and the consent, or excuse me, I need a to go to the minutes first. I'm sorry about that. So will somebody move to accept the minutes?
I'll move those.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now on to the, pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. My tea's in front of the camera. It's just iced tea everywhere.
Sure, just iced tea.
It can be tested.
She has insurance, right?
Could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Second,
I'll second it.
all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is accepted. Is there anyone that would like to bring any old business before the board? Was there anyone who would like to bring new business before the board? Chair's report. I do want to make a comment. I am technically challenged and I admit it. I've had terrible problem the last couple of weeks with my iPad. I had to go up to the help center twice. A very nice young student by the name of Mary helped me, straightened it all out. I'm always amazed. And I am very proud to serve on this board knowing I'm giving back to kids like that who are giving up their time. They're very talented. And I just felt very good about not only her fixing my iPad, but knowing that she is here and hopefully will have a wonderful career ahead of her. So that's my report. President's report, Dr. Knight.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to at least give a little synopsis for the board of the slides I presented at opening days. That's what I want to reiterate the message to and most important were number one, we're doing a lot of great things at this college that we should be very proud of. And it shows when you look at the headlines and you see colleges are having difficulties. When you have a college, a community college across the state that's having problems meeting their payroll and worried about making the payroll, it's important, number one, to know that we are 3 or 4 good decisions or bad decisions from being in a good or bad place like that college 5 years from now. And so the things we're doing are very, very good. And I think that we should applaud ourselves, the entire college, for that. The second part of my message was that everyone is equally important for what we do. If every one of our jobs, yours, everyone back here, everyone over here, your jobs are equally important in terms of coming together to what we do. So I really believe that in my heart, and I'm thankful for everything that everybody is doing. And third, we are doing a lot of great things that support our strategic plan. So you think about the 3 pillars, the major pillars, student success. If you haven't heard this story, it's a pretty cool one. When our student corporation vice president from India, when there's a concerted effort, you're talking about doing great things, of trying to have a leadership, student in leadership at student corporation who's an online student to make sure they're included. And they're from India and they've been accepted at Columbia University, and I told Columbia University, you're gonna have to hold on a semester because I'm staying at FLCC to finish my degree before coming over here to go to school at Columbia. So it's student success and things that are doing things, that says something. You think about opportunity innovation, you've got the 2+2 committee meeting soon, 52, I think, Deborah, applications,
51.
51, okay. Applications for the Board of Trustees Strategic Grant operations are coming up that we'll be going through in terms of our governance process.
difficult.
And you talk about community and industry engagement, two things that stand out. One, George and I were at the county earlier today. They approved a resolution for the county to support our advocacy efforts. And that resolution came about. I sent a notice of what Greene County was doing over to the administrator, county administrator, and within 18 hours, we had a resolution back to review. And the way it came about was we've created this partnership with the county now that it went to the county clerk. They know what we've been doing in our ad hoc committee. They know that we've been doing things together to fund the college better and do things like that. And they automatically went and made the resolution. They didn't tell anybody and then gave it to the administrator. Go, here, we figured you're gonna want this anyway. So we got ahead of the curve. And getting that a couple levels down below is really, really neat in terms of what we're doing. And then second, a wonderful effort between the county and the college working on hospitality activities that our workforce development folks at Ryan McCabe and Todd Sloan are working with Ryan Davis in terms of, and with Valerie Knobloch for the hospitality and tourism and everything. They're creating a training program for them, for their employees to better in terms of supporting their customers. And that just comes about because we're working together better. So I wanted to provide that we are doing all those things, we're doing great things that help us stay vital. And I'm just thankful to be part of the program. So I wanted to let you know how what we started with the presentation and what the main points were for that. And
Excuse me, just at one point. So this is Ontario County, where obviously they're our sponsor. What about the other 29 community colleges? Have you seen any momentum where in fact those county sponsors are doing the same?
Yeah, and we had an informational session for NYCCT, and one of the folks from, is it North Country? Is that where Joe?
yeah, Joe's from
North Country. One of his trustees said we should get folks doing resolutions. So a couple of models went out, and before you know it, folks are starting to do it. I can't give you a count.
Yeah.
But Greene County was one. And it wasn't just a resolution, but if you go on their website, they have a whole section on the first page that says, basically support your community college. They're being underfunded, write your, write your assemblyman, write this, write that. And so it's pretty neat.
So some momentum.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
It
I'll
sounds like
get into that.
Ontario County was an early adopter.
Yep, yeah. And I'll get into some momentum in a little more detail as we go.
And I don't want to steal George's thunder. But you talk about what we're doing well in terms of student success. You have 162 additional continuing students more than we had last year. And that's a testament to the faculty and staff of the work that they're doing as we continue to try to see how do we do things better? How do we continue to seek opportunity, innovation, and achieve our mission? One of the things that I will always take away from my time at this college is how much people truly believe in the mission, and they really want to do everything to help our students succeed. And speaking about students, really cool about advocacy, that today the student corporation signed their resolution supporting the advocacy efforts, already have it sent to our legislative leaders. And that they also are doing it as individual students as well. So really, really a great team effort by everyone involved, and just really excited about where we go. That's mean it's
That
gonna.
is across the system too, right? They're all doing it. So all of those student works. So this is a very coordinated effort. Randy Van Wagner, I think, helped to facilitate some of that, and it's getting there. They've moved on it very quickly.
Nita, I'm curious, are there other student trustees that you've had a chance to connect with throughout the state in terms of advocacy?
Not this semester, but last semester I connected with a few student trustees, and they didn't have much of an opinion on it, and we agreed that we would meet later and discuss it. And getting ready to meet with some shortly, probably at the end of the month. I'm online for that.
Great, thanks.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah,
Last part of our report, I just wanted to highlight another industry type of engagement. Rich Chupalio and I were at the director of the Regional Economic Development Corporation's office recently, and then at the recent regional REDC activity. And due to the indicated success of what's going on with the master facilities plan, which there was a great set of sessions orchestrated by Deborah Ortloff Monday to get more input. But the county is really interested in the horticulture educational complex. And because of a discussion with the REDC folks, we pulled back a grant that we had for $1 million. I'm going to ask for a higher level, 3 to 3.5 million for that. And I think we're making headway to be able to actually make that a possibility sometime in the future. So a lot of good things going on, and just thank all the great work that everybody's doing.
I did have a follow-up for either you or Bree. Are you getting a sense that the regional council is still interested in non-Monroe County? I mean, there's 10 counties in the council. And I mean, we heard for years, although I haven't been in the game in a little while, that those other 9 counties either don't ask or they're really interested in making sure some of those dollars are being spread, because the concentration's always north of 80–85% in Monroe County. I'm just curious, are you seeing any evidence of that at all?
I see the representation from those other counties at the table.
You do?
Absolutely interested in finding out what those opportunities will be for themselves. I would say we are most concerned about Ontario County. So Dr. Nye brought his little report and slid it across the table to the director and showed how Ontario County has not received nearly any pennies on the dollar for every dollar that Monroe County is receiving. And I think that was impactful, right? I think anytime we get the opportunity to tell that story. So
Do it.
I don't know if the shift will actually happen. We're hoping that.
Are they still looking at a May, June timeframe to kind of let you know? I mean, the state comes back usually in that timeframe. Final decisions, or has it changed?
So you mean as far as the funding?
The ultimate amount, each of the 10 regions gets a pot of money. And then once the pot of money is given, then some of those determinations are usually made from there.
Right, I'm not sure what the timeline was on that.
It's changed.
It has
That process has changed, and now they have a rolling process
Oh, it is?
that they're doing quarterly. And then, so we'll either be applying again in April or in June. Where if we apply in April, we would find out in July. If we applied in June, it would be probably October before we would get that. One thing that's interesting is that we found out recently, Ontario County's never not in recent past had a voting member on the group that actually votes and submits the recommendations to the governor. And because of that, there may be 2 county representatives in the future that might be on that voting committee in the future, being worked on.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Nye? Okay, committee and liaison reports. Nina, do you have anything you want to add or any questions?
I do not have a formal report for January, but I would like to invite you all to the dating doctor session on Friday from 1 to 3 in the student lounge with Dave Coleman. He is very funny. He talks about dating advice, and I think you guys should all come out and see that.
It's called the dating doctor.
Yes.
I saw him before. He came, in the fall?
Yes, he did.
Yes, I went to that one and he's fun.
Yes.
But he does have a message. He has a very positive message, but he's very light about it and things like that. And it was well received. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Over 50 years.
We're the same with our wives.
His audience is aimed more for a little bit younger crowd.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I imagine.
Jeff, do you have anything else that you
No,
want to add?
just, off of what Jason had said, we're going to meet on March 21st with the committee to hear the auditor's report in preparation for the April meeting.
Board development, Donna, do you have anything additional you want to add to report, or are there any questions for Donna?
If there are any questions, please let me
Any
know.
questions first?
We've been sort of talking a little bit behind the scenes about how we're going to get back on track. And hopefully we will have a few policies to present on board operations at the retreat. It's just for your information, so you can think about it and decide what direction we want to go in from there.
Association? Don, you have a report, any questions for Don or any additional comments you wish to make?
No, nothing additional other than what's in the report.
Okay. Foundation, that would be me. At the last meeting, I believe, Reverend Brias, that we only had like, what, about 10 or 12 tickets left for Fitness and Valentine's, which are probably gone now.
Yes, so we are officially sold out. We have a waiting list started.
Right. If you can't go, we do a silent auction and a live auction. And if you'd like to put a basket together or something like that, when should they have it done?
So the event's April 12th. I think we'd like to know as far in advance as possible, but once that thing's right up.
So the baskets are back?
We didn't have very many last year, did we?
No, so we're actually not doing the silent auction, just the live auction.
Oh,
but
you are,
we
okay.
have Smaller items that you'd like to donate, people put that together with a bigger.
Oh, okay, this is good.
Do you have an auctioneer
You do have the auction.
who guilt you into bidding? Oh, yes.
We have a comedian that also does the silent. Okay. NYCCT, Donna, anything you'd like to add or bring us up to
Yes.
date?
We, Dr. and I and Trustee Cushman and I just returned early this afternoon, before they went off to additional county meetings, et cetera, from the ACCT conference. As you can imagine, with budgets coming up, NYCCT has focused nearly 100% of their efforts on government relations. And I have to say, between the ACCT National Legislative Summit in DC, and advocacy at the federal level, and the NYCCT's statewide level of advocacy, I think this is the most coordinated efforts I've seen at this level that specifically benefit our community college. The NYCCT group and George has, I want you to know, has done an absolutely fabulous job of leading the Government Relations and Advocacy Committee. And that group has continues to spend, I know we've said this before, but they haven't let up. They've continued to spend an enormous amount of time, and certainly George can give a better detailed report, but just from an outside perspective, it has made a huge difference. And what we're hearing from the wonderfully coordinated efforts among the president's group and the trustees group, in conjunction with the students group, we are hearing from staffers as well as legislators, oh, there seems to be a really coordinated effort. Oh, we seem to be getting a lot of resolutions about it. So we think, kind of cracked the ice. I can't say how positive the results will be for this particular year, but this is a long game. And the fact that I think we are making inroads into the perceptions of what the issues are with funding for community colleges and how we are different from the four-year schools and the inequity that exists in funding in New York State with our schools, I think has really become an extremely sophisticated effort. This year, we also had the opportunity at ACCT, so I'm kind of merging these two here, but at the federal level, the president's group also had, on a pro bono basis, an advocate that set up meetings for us with, in addition to some of the legislative meetings with Department of Labor, Department of Commerce, Department of Economic Development, specifically to talk about community colleges. And they all said, please keep in touch with us. We want to hear your voice. We want to add it to policy. We want to know what you're doing, want to know how this is going to advance workforce development. Workforce development is the word everywhere. And apprenticeships. You can't go 5 minutes at a conference without somebody talking about apprenticeships. NYCCT on Tuesday of this past week also had a meeting in Albany that George and I and Rob were at. It was a reception for legislators. The first one was held last year, sort of a thank you to legislators who've been listening to us. It was an adequate event. This year was crowded. Legislators from across the state showed up. Our representative Pam Helming was there, very supportive, reminded us to not just talk to her in her office during budget season, but keep coming back at different times of the year to keep her informed. And I wanted to let you know that our relationship with the CUNY system, the CUNY Trustees Association, well, they don't have an association, so they have rejoined NYCCT. So we are not just SUNY's trustees anymore. It's our 30 community colleges, all of whom currently remain members in good standing, along with the 7 community colleges in New York City. And because a lot of our legislators are downstate, being able to have a united front with CUNY has also been extremely beneficial. So that's the outsider's view. George has all the inside information on that. But I also wanted to say that when I was at ACCT, I was able, this was my second meeting. We had a virtual meeting for the National Member Communications and Education Committee, and then we had one in person at a conference this week. And I was able to meet directly with one of the staff people operating those services. And we have a plan to better coordinate NYCCT's information through ACCT and vice versa. There are resources there now that we are members that we are not yet taking advantage of that I think would be beneficial to us. And there are many things that each one of you here can take advantage of through the site for learning resources. I was hoping that I might be able this afternoon put something quickly together after the conference, but that didn't happen. So hopefully I will have something in writing for you later with some links on it that you can take a look at.
So the reception that was recently had, the legislative reception, was the executive branch represented in any way? Any staff at all from the governor's office?
The governor asked Johanna to attend in her place. And we did get a letter from the governor indicating that she regretted, but she has asked Johanna to go in her place. And I think what we were all surprised with is that Johanna got on the microphone and said $97 million.
There you go.
So
But no staff members from the executive?
none that I recall.
Okay.
When we were at our Senate meetings with Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand in Washington, we're sort of preaching to the choir. They short-term Pell and tax-free Pell is already on their radar screen that they're very much supporting. However, we had a very large contingent. I think you'd be very proud of it from New York State in the 2 meetings that we had with our senators. And each time we said, we know this is not your responsibility at the federal level, but could you please advocate for us since you understand what some of the issues are with the funding model? Could you please speak to our state legislators? And they have both promised that they would do so because they believe that we're on the right path with what we're asking for. So that was an additional bonus.
And I would say that, to Donna's earlier point, that the message is getting across to everybody that the first thing that Schumer said when he stood up to the microphone is, I will call the governor. That was the first thing he said. But we didn't let it lie. We reminded him why he's calling the governor and and then he came back and said, well, okay, when you get this, you need to publish that it came from me. So that's the deal. It's a good deal.
And
Anything
when Senator Gillibrand
Show for money.
said she would pursue some of the questions that we had with the governor's office, with the governor, she got a large and long round of applause. She knew this was what we wanted. So I think it's been very clear. And I just would like to thank everybody who's been involved in supporting the advocacy effort here. And once again, to thank George publicly for the contributions that he's made in leading the effort.
A couple of quick, additional items and just a little more context in some cases. The calls, we've literally talked to everybody who has anything to do with this decision other than the executive branch, which we haven't been able to get to, which is why this is so important with the senator. We know he can be an influencer. He'll at least return his calls. I want to thank Trustee Russell for working with me on both the resolution kind of template that we could use that's been distributed to all of the colleges, and also for bringing me together to meet Assemblyman Gallahan. We had a really great conversation with him, and I think just like with everyone else, they all know that we've been underfunded, but I think they were shocked by how much and how badly it is. So thank you very much, Steve Russell. Resolutions, both student and county, going forward, those are going to reach the governor or her office. So that's known. In the calls, they mentioned the business letters, the letters from businesses, and they basically, that's where they said, it seems rather well organized. The reception in Albany, we had about 60 people there. And I think it was partly because of bringing CUNY back into the fold. And the influence of downstate is huge when it comes to what we need to do here.
And just to add, the legislators had a variety of concurrent sessions that they could have gone to. So the
Yeah.
fact that many of them showed up at our event, I think said a lot.
That and last year we outnumbered them, and this year they outnumbered us. And then finally, tomorrow, probably somewhere between noon and 2, the chair for NYCCT and board chair for Monroe Community College, Alan Williams, is going to provide testimony to the Joint Education Committee for Higher Ed. So he's, each of the chancellors, CUNY and SUNY, are first up. There's several unions that'll be in there, but Alan's right in the thick of it, and there'll actually be testimony in front of them. So the message, we've heard it from some of the legislators, you got to be a squeaky wheel. And I can tell you, we're squeaking.
Is the chair of that committee the same assemblywoman we heard from in,
That's
Yeah.
correct. And on the other side, it's Stefanik on the Senate side. They just came out with an article yesterday. They really think they've been all focused on TAF. I know she understands where our issue is, feels like crunched with the governor. she's been okay, but I think this pressure is gonna amp up. And they believe that TAP is gonna solve the problem. They're expanding TAP, but essentially TAP is pretty well covering community college students. This just allows it to better cover four-year students. So again, everything goes to the four-year at the expense of the two-year. And we've been explaining to them that while we certainly support this for TAP, TAP does nothing for the college. And it's actually cynical to provide these funds to the student when they can go into a program that they would not even be able to participate in because we can't afford to scale it. Nursing, for example. We can't afford to scale it. Even with, and we're losing, you know, as it is, we can't do a tuition differential. It's much more expensive. With clinical, you need a higher faculty to student ratio, 4 to 1. And when if we bring in more nursing students, we can't make it up on volume. You know, it's not gonna work. And as we're getting folks to understand this, they're realizing, oh. Okay. So it's a.
Student aid is wonderful. We love
Yes, it is,
student,
absolutely.
direct aid to students,
Support,
but it does nothing for the operational
we've got to
budget.
expand we've got to be able to support the infrastructure. We've got to support our faculty in this. We've got, you know, some of it's the build out of the program and all of that, the curricula and so forth. But this is what we're fighting for. So
Thank you for your work.
thank you, everybody. that
Takes a
we've
lot
been
of time.
It's been and I have to say, this has been just one of the most exceptional experiences. It is a lot of time. But it's, you know, we were in DC and just to be together with Dan Dupuy, Chris Young, those presidents, it's like a kumbaya. We are really, we are so together, so synchronized and totally believe in what we're doing that it's a special thing. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm optimistic that we'll certainly get the floor. I'm pretty confident that we'll get the floor. I'm actually getting a little confident we'll get a little bump. And a little bump would be a huge step in the right direction.
Something to build on for next year.
Exactly.
Exactly.
This is all building to next year, honestly.
This will be the first year that NYCCT has had a full year with a paid advocate. We did partial last year, was very successful. And I think, the plan is to just keep going. There will be no let up. So.
Good.
Any
And
other questions for George?
Well, one other quick thing on in DC, we did visit with, we had meetings at the White House, at the Department of Labor and at Commerce. And we worked with a woman named Anna Quinn. I've got to go.
Quieter, not quitter.
Quieter, not quitter. Exactly. That, now I was trying to remember that phrase. And I think there's a real interesting opportunity for us even to think bigger on federal type opportunities, earmarks, or getting ourselves basically our agenda written into the solicitations that'll go out for and into a fall, which is the term for sending out a solicitation for grants and stuff. And I think it's something we'll probably take a look at. I don't know if we'll go with it or not, but if we can be really specific to be able to drive something that can benefit the colleges, it might be worth doing some advocacy on the federal level too. So.
Okay.
I want to thank these two for keeping me straight out in DC and putting up with me walking through my old neighborhood because we were just a couple.
Besides George's office, the
And we actually went
labor,
to my old
and that is
office.
boss.
They got to meet the administrator for apprenticeship in the country, so
Best history lesson I've had in a while.
can't repeat all of them, but
Ask him about John Hooker. He's got a good story. So I also wanted to mention to Bree that we have some follow-up information regarding people who want to hear from the community colleges in the different federal grant opportunities area. So we will follow up with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? George, you're up again, student court, and did they meet in January?
yeah, I unfortunately missed that. I'm trying to remember what it was. It might have been, we were driving to,
It was,
but I just want to, you can look through it. Toward the end, there's some fun facts. I think those are kind of interesting. It'll help you get a kind of a sense of us.
Okay.
And I just want to commend not only Jenny, but all of the staff and faculty that work with that group because they really do a phenomenal job of developing those students. And the students are, they rise to the occasion, but it's just want to, on the record, commend that group for working with the students. It's great. It's a great thing. That's it.
Any other questions or comments? If none, I'm going to ask for a motion to move into executive discussion to discuss matters regarding collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, New York State Public Officers Law, Article 7, 105E.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
All
right.
Opposed? We will now move into executive session. However, we will come back to regular session in order to adjourn. All right, so we're now in executive session. If anybody would like to take a break before we discuss and have something to eat,
I was
feel
gonna
free to
say,
do so.
something in here.
Yeah.
Okay. Must be tired. Now it's